Welcome back to College Football Addiction. I've got Jay from Unfair Sports on to talk a little Red River rivalry. Jay, appreciate you for joining me today. Appreciate BetUS for their support. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But, man, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. It's the biggest week of the year for us Sooner fans, man. We get to actually watch a rivalry game that means a lot at this moment.
Yeah, it just means more this year, too, right? Like a little.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for indulging the dad joke. Okay, what is the mood though? Lost, rough loss to Tennessee, beat Auburn in pretty dramatic fashion. Bye seems like it came at a good time. It's rivalry week, so it's exciting, but is there, I'll just be honest, is there a little bit of a damper with a 2-touchdown spread? What's the mood going into it?
To be honest, fans, seems like the players, the staff, everybody's embracing the 2-touchdown spread, right? The big thing about the Red River rivalry or shootout or whatever you want to call it, this rivalry, there's a lot of hate in between this and a lot of wild things have happened here, right? So it kind of doesn't matter who's the favorite. It's all about who goes out there and punches the other one in the mouth, right? Last year, Oklahoma was a 3-point dog, 3 or 4-point dog by the time the game kicked off. Ended up winning the game by 4 points. And so for us, the big thing is, of course, we've got a freshman quarterback, but it looks like week over week, he's gotten better, right? And you're seeing more and more usage, right? Last week, we got a deep pass, a 60-yard bomb to J.J. Hester, one of the young wide receivers who's been unhealthy the last 2 years. And he's finally getting some time. So for that, Michael Hawkins is going to go out there. He's going to get things together. Brent Venables is going to make sure this defense is ready. And to be honest, Texas hasn't seen a defense like Oklahoma's yet. There's some spots where Oklahoma can be better, but Texas hasn't seen one like this. And so we know that Oklahoma is going to go out there and be motivated. The question is how motivated will Texas be? Because not only are they number one in the country, but they got Georgia coming the next week, and it's been posted that it's a night game.
Yeah, what's interesting, too, is if the SEC or really college football taught us anything last week, it is that it doesn't really matter how big a spread is. It doesn't really matter how big a favorite somebody is. Like wild stuff can happen. And really not just the SEC. In college football, obviously USC and Michigan dropped. And so, but yeah, some wild stuff in the SEC specifically. I was going to ask you about Hawkins. Like, he certainly does seem to have provided a spark. And, it seems like they're in a little better place offensively. Can you dive in a little bit more with him? And, Texas does seem to have a pretty good defense. Now, again, their win on the road at Michigan, always impressive to win at the Big House, but maybe that has lost some luster with the way that Michigan has played since then. Not trying to take anything away from them. I still think they're probably the number one team in the country by virtue of what everyone else has put on tape. But, yeah, just thoughts a little deeper on him and how he maybe matches up against this Texas defense, which I still think is good, even if Michigan sucks.
Overall, I don't think Texas defense is bad, right? And again, you pointed out perfectly. They played against a Michigan team that likes to try to muscle you and just run the ball with zero passing threat. And honestly, that's kind of where Texas is a lot stronger, right? Is that they're better at stopping you from being able to run and not allowing you to pass. The only team that really played against that really passes the ball would be Mississippi State, but it's Mississippi State, right? They had a freshman quarterback in Michael Van Buren, and on the defensive side of the ball, they're not very good. The funny thing is that score was like, 13-6 or 7-6 at the half. So it was a close game up until the second half when, Texas just took over. For Oklahoma, Michael Hawkins, the good thing for him is we've seen him get better week over week, right? So he played against Tennessee at the end of the game. In that game, he threw for 132 yards, played the full game against Auburn, threw for 161. And all you're seeing is that week over week, he's getting better. Plus, he had that massive run of 48 yards for a touchdown. So he's not afraid to use his legs, but he's also starting to get better at throwing the ball to a wide receiver corps that is down its top 5 wide receivers. Like, it's probably the first time anyone's ever seen this in college football history, that all top 5 of your wide receivers are cooked for the entire year. So we're trying to figure that part out. But the other thing is,
So we'll talk a little bit more with Jay, but first I do want to give a little bit of love over to BetUS. You can go to YouTube. You can go to BetUS right now. Use our code that's YouTube exclusive, YouTube150 over there for a 150% deposit sign up bonus on your first deposit. Your next two deposits, you will get 125% on each. That's up to $2,000 on your first three. They've got the best lines in the game. They've got the best customer service in the game. Make sure that you're betting with us over at betus.com. We've been having a good time and appreciate them for their support this season.
Is that the Oklahoma defense has been what's carried them, right? You saw how Auburn in that game, we was waiting for Peyton Thorne to do what he does best. He threw a pick six to lose the game. And so Oklahoma did a good job of driving down the field to get the touchdown to put us in the position to where a pick six actually wins it. I'm going to be honest, man. If Hawkins played the full game against Tennessee, that score may have been a lot different because those two turnovers that Oklahoma got early against Tennessee should have turned into points, but they ended up turning into turnovers right over again. So I think Michael Hawkins is building up his composure. I mean, he's the son of an NFL corner, right? He's been raised around NFL guys his entire life. He worked with Kyler Murray's dad as far as, training at quarterback. So I'm sensing that he's not going to be small when it comes to the moment. He's ready for it. He's excited for it. He played Texas football. And so I think he's going to step up and show us something kind of special.
Talk about that injury and just any positive news on that front with, wide receiver, O-line, just anything hopeful for this weekend that may bring Sooners fans some good news there?
Well, the offensive line looks healthy now. It looks like it's gotten actually healthy, and we're going to have some consistency on the offensive line going forward, it appears, which is what we have not seen the first four games of the season. Last game was more consistency in comparison to the first four. Because remember, when Jackson Arnold was quarterback, he had 4 different centers in 3 games. That's absurd, right? And the funny thing is, a lot of people had their concerns around like the strength and conditioning staff and all of that stuff. The only injury seemed to came from one side of the ball. It's just happenstance and bad luck. The defense has done fine. It's just the offense is just, we just been bit by a bug. And so because of that, the inconsistency on the line hurt you. But we got that. We got that against Auburn. We started to see better consistency there. And now is all about just execution. And I think that now that they've been together for at least 2 weeks and it looks like we're going to get the same guys going into next week, I think we'll see a much better product in the game against Texas, especially in the run game, which is the one thing we need to do a little bit better, just so that Michael Hawkins, whenever he throws the ball, Texas has to respect it.
Sure. We talked about this, them embracing the 14-point spread. At the same time, though, rivalries do get pretty weird, and you kind of,
every single one of them.
Yeah, certainly. I don't know, certainly unexplainable things type things happen in these matchups. Not to throw Oklahoma completely under the bus, but how much do you think Oklahoma needs this to get weird for them to come out with a win?
I don't think they need it to be weird, but they do need to execute on the defensive side of the ball. And the main thing is they need to get to the quarterback. If they keep Quinn Ewers or, Arch Manning basically guessing and scrambling quickly, getting rid of the ball fast, then I think Oklahoma will have a chance, right? The big thing is that getting that offense off the field will help. If anything, honestly, if they can pull a Vanderbilt type of playbook where they just play keep away the entire time, Oklahoma has a really good chance of at least at minimum covering the spread.
Oklahoma's defense versus Texas, you've mentioned this a little bit. Uncertainty around that position you just mentioned, quarterback, but I don't know how much it matters with, Manning looking pretty good too. Just thoughts around how they match up against the Texas offense that, again, has looked really good. I don't know how many great defenses they've seen, but they've taken care of business for sure. Just thoughts around how one of the better defenses in the SEC, Oklahoma, does match up there.
Yeah, Texas started off, in that game against Michigan, right? That game to begin with, they just took over and destroyed that offense, right? It felt like they just destroyed the morale that was up there at the Big House. And they did a really good job in a hostile environment of shutting everybody up quickly. I mean, you go up You go up 24-3 at the half. There's not much else you really need to do in that game, right? The game's done. Michigan has no way of coming back from a score that high because they can't score very quickly unless the run game can get going. And Texas was prepared for that. And their defense just spent a lot of time on the field. I think for Oklahoma, it's going to be having to balance out the time and getting Texas off the field often. And the best way to do that is to force them to throw a lot shorter passes as well as getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Again, Quinn is coming off of an abdomen injury, and it sounds like he's going to play in this game. If Oklahoma can put a couple helmets there in his chest, get him to the ground, get some hits while he's throwing the ball, that could be able to slow things down on the offensive side because I don't think the Texas running game is that good right now. I mean, they lost, 2 running backs to be exact. And losing running backs that's one thing that Texas bread and butter has always been. Now, granted, their coach is Steve Sarkisian, who's a really good offensive mind, but having an injured quarterback or a quarterback that's kind of, a little bit hurt, it's going to make it a little bit tougher, right? Especially with the defense that's in efficiencies ranked in the top 10, which Oklahoma's is. Now, they're susceptible to the deep pass, but as long as you don't give him time to be able to throw it deep, I think Oklahoma will be fine.
What worries you the most in this game? Like what I don't know, is it a matchup? Is it just an overall, mindset? Like what worries you the most as an Oklahoma fan with this matchup with Texas?
That the offense doesn't get going, right? That's the biggest fear in this game is that you've got to get the defense an opportunity to get a break, right? We saw that in the Auburn game. That defense looked a little bit gassed because they'd basically been running the field for the last 4 games. They had been doing all the work while the offense had been trying to figure out and work out its kinks. But going into this game with the bye week, now you know who your starting quarterback is. And like I said, week over week, he's starting to get better. If you can add some additional wrinkles, potentially get some hurt players back, like it looks like Taylor Tatum may potentially come back. The phenom freshman can go out there in the backfield with some of the veterans and give you different looks. You might see Deion Burks, the transfer wide receiver from Purdue, who is very much electric when you get him out in the field. That's a possibility. So you get one of your top 5 wide receivers back potentially. And so it's all about getting the offense going. And honestly, I don't need them to go out there and put a whole bunch of points on. I need them to just burn clock. Keep the Texas defense on the field for as long as possible. Again, take the playbook from Vanderbilt and try to go for a 42 to 17 minute time of possession. Now, that's not realistic, right?
That's hard.
That's very hard to do because Diego Pavia, he did a really good job of making sure that happened. But Oklahoma can do that with Michael Hawkins and his athleticism. The key is going to be keeping the ball. As long as Oklahoma can win the time of possession, even if it's like 32 to 28, I think Oklahoma has a really good chance of playing spoiler for the 3rd week in a row to a number 1 team.
It's early in the week. We're doing this on Monday afternoon just due to some weather and stuff that's coming down to my part of the area. So if you're in the path of that storm or if you're anywhere kind of near where I'm at in Central Florida, certainly we're thinking about you and hopefully you're staying safe and maybe this provides a little bit of a distraction. But so I'll give you some grace on this because it is early in the week. And so if you don't want to give a full out prediction or if your prediction changes, make sure that you guys are following over at Unfair Sports on YouTube as well. But do you have a lean on this? If you're not ready to make a full prediction, I'm okay with it. If you want to make one, that's fine too. But just how do you think this ends up going down?
Look, I'm overly confident. I think Oklahoma wins like 66-0. I'm playing. I'm kidding. No, but I do think this, right. No, but I do think this game is going to be a lot closer than people expect, right? I feel like this team that Oklahoma has right now reminds me of the 2009 one when Sam Bradford went down against BYU and basically 3/4 of the offensive line went down. So at one point, everybody knows Trent Williams, the big offensive tackle for the 49ers, one of the best and the highest paid one in the NFL. He had to play center in the bowl game because they lost so many linemen that season, right? They were moving tight ends in to play other positions. So it feels like that year. And in that year when Oklahoma played Texas, it was 16-13. And that was the year that Texas played for the national championship with Colt McCoy. So for me, I think it's going to be close in that range. I think it's like a 16-13, a 17-14 type score. 17-16. It's going to be a very close game. I do not see I see Oklahoma easily covering the spread, but I think it's going to be a dogfight because Texas is not coming in here at 100%, and neither is Oklahoma. So it's going to be more of a dogfight. And so right now, I still lean that Oklahoma can pull this one out and be spoiler for another number one team. Like I said, 3 weeks in a row, number one team goes down. But I'm staying that until I got to see what the injury reports look like on both sides.
Jay, where can people follow you? Where can they get more of your content?
Of course, follow me over on Unfair Sports. You can find me on YouTube as well as whatever podcasts are download and listen to. Thanks for having me, TJ.
Awesome, man. We appreciate you. We appreciate BetUS for their support. Go check them out, like we mentioned earlier. And, man, we'll talk to you guys soon here on College Football Addiction.